Okay, welcome to Teach Online TV. My name is Tyler Basu, and I am here with a very special guest, Michael Carbone. I've actually known Michael for almost 2 years now, I think. We connected online. Never actually met in person yet, but we've been
Not yet.
Internet friends for a while now. Michael is a very extraordinary guy. He is a lifestyle entrepreneur, an MBA graduate, an Ironman, a podcast host of the Unleash Yourself podcast, and an online course creator. He's actually created 3 courses. The most recent one is a course on how to create a course, but how to do it in a weekend. So a very short amount of time, how to pick your topic, get your course created, and get it launched in just a few days. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how to create a course in a short period of time, get it online, and get your first round of students enrolled in the course. So Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to do the interview. I'm excited to dive into this.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Tyler. It's been a while since we chatted, but you're right. We never met in person, but this is as close as we've gotten the video calls.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for the invite, and I can't wait to get in, share a little bit more about myself, and most importantly, help everyone who's listening, learn about online courses, how they can create one, and how they can create one quicker than they ever expected.
Sounds good, man. Now, I know I gave away just a little bit of your bio there at the beginning, but can you just tell us how you got into this online world and what led you to create your first online course in the first place?
Yeah, definitely. So the story is a long one, so I'll try to keep it short, but it's very interesting. You did touch on a few things. I'm the host of the Unleash Yourself podcast, but you mentioned the word Iron Man, and I want to make sure everyone listening doesn't think it's the comic book. Definitely not an Iron Man from that persperspective, but the Iron Man.
You're not a superhero?
I'm not, unfortunately.
Man. Oh, no.
I would have loved to be, but I'm not. The Iron Man, the reason why that title follows me is because I did the Ironman triathlon. It's known as the hardest day in all the sports. And the reason why it's important is because that was a big turning point for me. When I signed up for that race, I was still working a full-time job. I was working a 9 to 5, and I had all these dreams of creating, an online business, but I didn't really believe in myself. Finishing that race really gave me a sense of confidence, and it allowed me to take the leap to leave my full-time job and to start an online business. And the first few months I spent, 3-4 months making very close to $0. You also mentioned I was an MBA graduate, so I felt like I should be doing like high-level consulting or something really fancy, and nothing really worked. And the first 3-4 months were really tough. And I decided to change the way I looked at doing business online. I decided to change the way I looked at myself and, what I should be doing, and started to look at what could work and what can work a little quicker, because I need to start making revenue. I need to start believing that I can do this, and I needed to make my first sale. And that's when I discovered online courses. And I really looked at myself with a new set of eyes and said, okay, what can I offer the world? What can I teach other people? What do I know really well? What's unique to me? And how can I package that into a course and sell it, on a bigger scale, reach more people, have a bigger impact? And that's what really led me to start my first online course. Was that struggle, was seeing this opportunity, seeing a lot of people creating online courses. They seemed to be going very well. I heard at the time that there was a big industry. I think it was about $60 billion at the time. People were talking about these big numbers. So I said, I'm going to get involved into this industry and focus on something I'm good at and something I love. And that's what started my first online course.
And so what was the topic for your first course that you ended up deciding to teach, and how did you choose that was going to be what you taught?
Yeah, so the first topic was actually in a very uncommon niche. I was a poker player in college. So, I was a scholarship baseball player, so I played baseball. I was going to grad school, so I was studying and doing my coursework. But then in my spare time, one of my hobbies was playing poker, and I did very well. I made a lot of money playing poker online. So when I looked at myself and I said, okay, what can I teach other people? This was a big theme in my life. I asked myself certain questions, and I said, okay, online poker is something I love, something I'm good at, something I know a lot about, something that's fairly unique as well. What if I'm able to package that into a course? Now, in college, I had done like a few one-on-one Skype calls with some people. I did some coaching, but nothing too serious. So I said, okay, I know people are willing to pay for this. They're willing to learn. A lot of people are already playing poker for fun, as entertainment, recreationally. They're losing money playing poker, but they enjoy it. So what if I help these people who are already playing and getting bad results, change the results and get good results, and help them, play a game for fun and actually make almost like a side income doing it? So it was very hard for me to accept that that's what I wanted to do, or that's what I could have done, because like I said, I had a lot of limiting beliefs. I was, an MBA graduate, so I saw myself as, someone with a big job or a good title. And this didn't really ring well for me. So it was hard for me to accept until I said, you know what, it doesn't define me per se. I can be helping a lot of people. And most importantly, I can launch my first online course, my first online business, and follow my dreams. So the first topic for my course was, online poker. And I made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I learned a lot. And the biggest lesson, or the biggest thing I can tell everyone who's listening, is that you want to get started, because your first course could lead to your second and then your third. And I know I would not be here today, with online course in a weekend, if I hadn't started that day with a course about online poker and learned everything I needed to learn, and created some momentum and started going.
Yeah, so I mean, it sounds like it was, you treated it kind of like an experiment. You didn't really know what to expect, but you were tired of waiting for that day when you'd have the perfect business or whatever or figured out. And so you just went with the skills that you had, the knowledge that you had, the resources that you had at the time, created your first course, and that since led to other things.
Exactly.
And how did you? What were you doing to sell that first course?
Okay, so I tried a lot of different things selling it, and I realized that the hardest part was, after I created this course, selling it more than just one sale at a time. So I discovered webinars. At the time, I was looking at, all these online entrepreneurs. Everyone was hosting a webinar. They seemed to be going really well. They seemed, pretty simple. Something I enjoyed doing was, being on a stage, even if it'd be virtual. So I said, let me learn about webinars. Let me try hosting webinars, see if it could help me scale and sell my course more. And that's when, a lot of things changed for my business. I started doing very well in terms of monthly revenues. I started being able to travel, because I was, webinars took me pretty much everywhere. I can host them from anywhere in the world as long as I had an internet connection. And I started learning the craft of hosting a successful webinar. And that actually became my second online course, because I learned so much about webinars. I got great results of webinars. And it came a point where I said, I treated, like you said, I treated the online poker course as a learning experience. I said, I'm going to optimize this course for learning. I'm not going to worry about scaling it to $100,000 a year or beyond, because I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I want to do this to get started. I want to learn, by creating. I want to learn by doing. And then once I learn everything I need, I'm going to launch my own personal brand, which I now have at michaelcarbone.ca. And I want to be involved more in, in entrepreneurship, helping people create an online business. But first, I have to do it myself. So that's exactly what I did with the course. And that's how I found webinars, which became my second course. So like I said, a lot of times, one thing leads to the next. But if you don't get started and you never take that first step, and you never create your first course because you're not sure if your idea is perfect, or you're not sure if you're ready yet, you will never be ready, never get to that next step, or all the opportunities that come along the way with it. So, online course in a weekend, especially now, I suggest, and I really recommend people try to do things in shorter periods of time, try to do things quicker, so that you can get started and build some momentum along the way. Because, the secret for me, and for a lot of people who are listening, might not know what the secret is, or might not think it's this. But as Mark Twain said, the secret to getting ahead is getting started. It's not any more complicated than that.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I definitely see the progression, like the stepping stones that happened, because you started with just identifying, a skill that you had, knowledge that you had that you were comfortable sharing. That became the poker course. Then to sell the course, you learned how to do webinars. So then your next course naturally was a course on how to do webinars. And by then you've created two courses. So the third one is a course on how to create a course. So I can see like the evolution that happened as you were learning in your journey, and then sharing that knowledge with the next person once you felt that you were comfortable enough with a specific topic to put what you know into a course. Now, the topic of creating a course in a short amount of time, in a weekend, as you say, is what I wanted to dive into here, because as you know, Thinkific's audience are course creators, aspiring course creators, and one of the biggest stumbling blocks that we see is the time that it takes to go from idea to completed course. Sometimes it takes 6 months, 12 months, longer, or it never happens, because people get stuck somewhere in that process. So why don't we let's go right back to idea. How do you suggest somebody choose the topic that they want to teach first of all? So let's assume they've made up their mind they want to create a course. What's the next step from there? How do they decide what they're going to teach?
Yeah, so I really recommend that you set up a deadline. And, that's why I created the course in the way that I did, with the short deadline, because as you said, if you don't have a deadline, you can even say, I'm going to try to do it in 6 months, but then 6 months become 12 months, 12 months become, maybe never. Maybe you get started and never finish. Maybe you try to come up with an idea, which we're going to talk about here, and never find one, because you don't have the deadline where you can stop and say, okay, I need to stop here, or I'm running out of time. I need to take the best idea I have. It may not be perfect. but I'll take the best idea I have and I'm going to take the next step. And then you start learning along the way, right? So, think about it even in the idea for Christmas. When you're trying to buy a Christmas present, you could be stuck trying to find someone's Christmas gift idea. What can I get someone? Well, I don't know what to get them. I don't know what they like. Then you're pushing it off. You can't come up with any good ideas. Then December 23rd comes around. You realize that I'm running out of time. Let me take the best idea I have. It's good enough. And I'm going to go with it and see what happens. And then you give the gift and the guy loves it or the girl loves it. And you're like, thank God I went with it because I wasn't sure, but it worked out. I notice the same thing happens with ideas. You need a deadline in order to force yourself to come to a decision. If we have infinity, we'll never decide because we always have that doubt, no matter how much positive evidence you have that it could work. So a lot of people get stuck there. So what I recommend you do is, number one, give yourself a deadline. Do it in a weekend. If you want to come up with an idea, give yourself a deadline. In the course, I teach how to come up with an idea within a couple of hours. But if you want to give yourself a bit longer, do it in a weekend and then move on from there. But what I recommend you do is that you ask yourself certain questions. And I've learned, like one of my biggest aha moments in my journey as an entrepreneur was the concept that ideas could be unlimited, and the idea that you can follow a systematic way to come up with an idea. Okay, so I was stuck for such a long time. Like, it took me 3 years to even quit my job. It took me 4 or 5 months to even come up with an idea. And I used to be one of those people who said, I don't have any ideas. And then once you learn what questions to ask yourself, you'll tap into this endless stream of ideas, and you start looking at yourself differently, and you start seeing, like a progression like I had. I learned about webinars. Okay, I can teach people about webinars now. So a few questions you can ask yourself, and I teach it in my course. It's called the Look Within Method, and I can provide a free worksheet if you guys are interested. Tyler, I can send that over to you and you can put it in the show notes. It's the exact worksheet that I have in my course. Again, it's called the Look Within Method, and I help you look within. I help you look at yourself with a new set of eyes and look at what you have to offer the world. And it really comes down to asking yourself a few questions and then seeing a few overlapping themes. So one question you can ask yourself is, what have I accomplished, or what's something I'm proud that I've accomplished over the last 2 years? And then you come up with, let's say, 5 different things that you've accomplished over the last 2 years. You start seeing the things that you've done. And then once you realize, I did accomplish this. So I have an experience, I have a story, I have some knowledge on how to do it, and now I can teach other people. You can ask yourself other questions as well. Like, when someone thinks of me, what's the first thing that comes to mind? If they can describe me in one word, what is that one word? And you start seeing that, what do people see you as an expert as? And, we look at all our friends, say, okay, Tyler's great at, relationships. Michael's great at, health and fitness, so on and so forth. So everyone looks at, people and they say, you need to speak to Tyler when it comes to online business. You need to speak to Michael when it comes to racing an Ironman. So you start coming up with this list of topics and you start seeing these overlapping themes. And one of my favorite ones is actually thinking about it when you go on holiday. Say, when I'm on vacation, what books am I reading? What are the things I'm still doing even when I'm away from my regular life, right? I'm on holiday. What are the things that come with me because I can't stop doing them? Those are the things you're the most passionate about. Usually they're also the things that you know very well, because if you're passionate about them, you read more about them, you learn more about them. You're usually better than the average person when it comes to that topic. So, the Look Within Method really helps you look at yourself, come up with some, big picture ideas, some themes that you're good at. And then once you have those themes, you can dive deeper to, discover more specific, actionable things you can help people with, what people are struggling with, what problems they have within that niche, and then get specific on, what problem you're going to help them solve.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like we should be trying to find that intersection between those things that we're passionate about, that we're interested in, but also that we have knowledge on, maybe even that others have complimented us for, or know that, or think of us as that person who has knowledge on that topic. That's why getting feedback from other people in your circle is important. So now what happens if we go through that process and we end up with a few different ideas? Maybe they're totally unrelated. Maybe they're different topics. Is there a way that we can, somehow gauge which of those ideas or topics is most likely to do well as a course? Is there a way that we can kind of test to see if there's demand for online courses on that topic? What else is out there? Is there a process that you have at that point in the process?
Yeah, definitely. So it does happen often. People come to me and then they say, Michael, I have 0 ideas. And then they go through the look within method and they say, now I have too many ideas. How do I pick one? Because I have 3 themes, like you said, and they're very different. So I don't know which way to go. Well, the first thing I suggest, and if you're doing this in a weekend, I suggest you, number one, look at, which topic do I know the most about? And the reason why that matters is because if you're trying to do it in a weekend, you simply don't have enough time to go do, months of research and analyze the data and studies. So you want to pick a topic that you know very well. So the bulk of the work is already done when it comes to the research. Then you want to figure out if people are willing and able to pay for a course on this topic. Is there interest? Are people looking for this kind of information? So it's really a system. So you start with the look within method, you come up with a big picture idea or a few, and then you pick the one that you know the most about. From there, you can start looking at it more specifically. And you start saying, okay, where can I find people talking about this? Where can I find, the specific problems they're having? Let me see if I can validate this idea. And the way I like to do it is by going on Amazon and by looking for, the top 3 books that are written on your topic. And then, reading some of the reviews and seeing what people are saying and saying, okay, this guy left a 5-star review and that means he absolutely loved the book. And let me see what he loved about it. So I can see, what he's praising this book for and to see, some of the topics that people really liked. Some of the 3-star reviews are the questions left unanswered. They read the book and they still had questions. They still had pain points. They still had doubts and uncertainties. That's when you can find another problem or, unanswered questions that you can then solve for your course. And then you can even look at the 1-star reviews, which are usually things that people hated or said are completely missing or neglected. And then you can find more problems there and more complaints that you can then solve. And I really like to use this system because it's a system, you're able to always go back and start over if things don't work out. So you came up with 3 to 4 big picture ideas. You picked the one you like the most, that you know the most about. You went to Amazon, you did some research, and maybe you realize that, it's not the best idea. I love it. I know a lot about it, but people are not buying books on this topic. People are not interested in it. Let me go back and pick the next idea from the look within method, and let me then push it through the system to see what Amazon has to say and what people are talking about. And if ultimately you can find people buying books on the topic, if people are already buying courses on the topic, then it's a great sign. Don't stop to say, I want to create a course, but there are 50 other courses on this, so it's not a good idea. It's actually a great idea because you have proof right there that people are spending money on this topic. People are spending money on this solution because ultimately at the end of the day, people are not buying an online course to take a course. They have a problem and they're buying a solution to that problem. And that's all your course has to be. You have to look at yourself as someone who's solving a problem. People will find you because they're going to be looking for that solution and you're going to provide it.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I love that you recommend that people go out and find other resources because some people will see that there's other books, there's other courses, and that'll spook them. They'll think, oh no, there's my competition. There's already so many resources out there. But I see it as a good thing, and you see it as a good thing as well, because when you see those other books and those other courses, that's proof that people are paying for information on that topic. And better yet, you can take a look at what's included in their products. You can read the outline of the book. Like even on Amazon,
exactly.
For Kindle versions, you can preview that table of contents and you can see the chapter outline. If you want to read the whole book, go for it. But there's a benchmark because you can see what other content has been put out there and what feedback that content received. Like the reviews on Amazon, for example, you're going to figure out which topics people most appreciated that were included in that book, which questions were unanswered, and which things they were disappointed that weren't included in the book at all. So that gives you some ideas for what content to include in your course.
Exactly.
So that leads me into my next question, which is putting together that outline for your course. Because before we start actually recording the lessons or creating the lessons inside of the course, we should probably create an outline and decide what content we're going to put in. So do you have any tips for this process? How do we put together that outline of what to include in our course?
Yeah, the course outline is something that people neglect. And I know I used to neglect it for the longest time. I would jump from idea to production. I want to start a course. I have an idea. Let me start creating the course. And it really doesn't work that way, because you're going to notice that without that outline, you're going to get lost, you're going to get paralyzed, you're going to have writer's block, you're going to go in circles. You might even create a course, but it's not going to be linear. It's not going to be optimized for learning, so that when students, go through it, they're like, this is a bit confusing. So you really want to create a course outline. And not only do you want to create a course outline, but it needs to be rock solid. You need to spend a lot of time on it, and probably spend more time than you expected to spend on it. I know it was hard for me to accept, but once I started doing that, the course creation process became super simple. It actually became fun. Course creation didn't make me freak out anymore. I didn't go crazy. It didn't be super stressful. It actually became fun because I had this course outline and I had it all laid out, and I just had to say, okay, point number 1, I know exactly what I need to talk about. Let me go fill in the blanks. Point number 2. So it's all done. It's almost like a table of contents, like you were mentioning some of the writers and books. You have the whole table of contents written out, and you just got to go ahead and just fill in the blanks. So when it comes to outlining your course, a lot of people struggle with this because they don't really know where to start, or they write down, a couple of bullets and they say, that's pretty much it. So what I recommend doing is taking your topic and the specific topic that you found by going to Amazon. So you had your big picture idea, then you got specific, and now you have a specific problem that you're solving. Try to answer it in 4 questions. Try to answer it in 4 sentences. So you're going to answer it in 4 sentences, and that's going to become like the 4 main pillars of your course, because you're going to see how one sentence, follows. There's a next sentence, and each one leads you closer to the result. And if you only have 4 sentences to answer it in, you have to kind of go from introduction to body 1, body 2, conclusion, that kind of thing. So let me give you an example. Like, for example, let's say productivity is something you're really good at. One of my students is actually really big on productivity, and he created a course in a weekend on productivity. Now, let's say he said, okay, the big picture idea is productivity. Let me get super specific. So let me go to Amazon, and I start seeing a lot of books about morning routines. And I noticed that, a lot of people are talking about morning routines in podcasts. Everyone asks, what's your morning routine like for a top performer? So then you say, okay, let me get specific. And let me say, my course is going to be about a 5 a.m. morning routine to help you be more creative, more productive, have more clarity, whatever it may be. So now you say, okay, let me, explain this topic in 4 sentences, which then become the 4 modules of the course. And that could be, number 1, you're not crazy if you want to wake up at 5 a.m. Number 2, it could be, a morning routine actually starts the night before. Then it could be, the first thing to do in the morning as soon as you wake up that's going to avoid you hitting snooze. And then, my step-by-step bulletproof morning routine, from the minute you wake up to your first hour of your day. So those could be your 4 sentences that explain everything. And you're going to have them laid out on your piece of paper, and it's like 4 modules. And then you start seeing it very clearly. And then from there, you want to go a little deeper for each sentence. So you have subsections under each subsection. And I suggest to keep it very to the point and concise. Don't try to create, 40 bullets for each sentence. Keep it simple, 2 to 3 bullets, maybe 4 for each topic. So that's for each module. So then you can keep it very actionable and to the point, because people don't want more content. People don't want more information. They just want specific actionable steps that they can follow to go from where they are to then where they want to be, which is what your course is going to help them accomplish. And, I learned this the hard way, because my first course on online poker was actually a very long course. It was 25 hours long. So a very in-depth course, too much content even. And I realized that people weren't going through the entire course. People were stopping halfway. People were getting lost along the way because it's just too overwhelming. So keep it specific when it comes to creating content. Create your 4 sentences, then maybe 2 to 3 bullets per sentence, which explains further your previous point. And then when you create your videos, keep them very short and to the point. 3 to 5 minutes per video is great. You don't have to do 1 hour long videos. People like bite-sized content and just solutions.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I'm glad you brought up, the topic of course length. 25 hours for a poker course. Holy cow! Yeah, I can only imagine how long it took you to make that. Yeah. But I think it's important we address that the length of the course is in no way proportionate to the value of the course. Like, right. People don't take a course because they want to go through a bunch of modules and lessons. They take a course because they want a result. So your course is supposed to be the shortcut. You're supposed to give them just enough information to help them get the result that was promised, not overwhelm them with a bunch of stuff. And I can see how this fits into your process because, for example, that student of yours who chose productivity as their topic, that's a very broad topic. Like what could that cover? Are we talking about email productivity, productivity at home, productivity at work, productivity when you're at the gym? Like in what context? But narrowing it down from there into morning routines, and here's the course on how to create your morning routine. That's much more specific. So I'm glad that came up, because it is important for people to just identify that result they want their course to help somebody achieve, and then break that result down into certain steps. You recommended that 4 modules is probably more than enough, 4 sentences, and then within each of those modules you have maybe shorter lessons, or you take some bullet points and turn those into shorter lessons that fit within that module.
Yeah, and I just want to add to what you said here about the idea of the productivity being such a huge topic, right? Super broad, and I think that's what a lot of people get stuck in, because they say, I want to create a course on productivity because that's what I'm good at. I'm good at being productive. And they don't realize that they have to be super specific about in what angle. And I want to clarify also about my first course. Like, it wasn't just about online poker. Like, online poker has many different formats. There's heads up, there's cash games, there's tournaments, there's different structures and speeds. For me, it happened very naturally when it came to the topic. I went from big picture idea to specific concept very quickly because I was a specialist in a certain game. So I taught the game that I knew, and therefore I was already found in a niche. But again, like, don't just say online poker, because there could be 40 different concepts. It could be, 5-card draw, Omaha, no limit, heads up, Hold'em, a lot of different structures and different games. So I just wanted to clarify that and make sure that it wasn't just a broad picture topic either.
Yeah, great advice. Okay, so let's say we've got the outline for the course, and we're ready to start creating some content. What's your process for creating the actual lessons inside of your course? Are these video lessons? Are they text? Are they audio? What are they? And what kind of equipment are you using to create the actual lessons?
Yeah, so I like to keep it very simple. Again, the more barriers you put up, the more paralysis you'll face, the more obstacles, and they're really unnecessary. There's a lot of courses out there that are super high level. They're being sold for thousands of dollars, and they have a production team, they have a studio, they have professional lighting, and they're standing in front of a camera, and it's perfect, right? Now, if you're creating your first course, you don't have to do that. I want you guys to know that if you're listening, you don't have to have a studio, you don't have to hire a crew, you don't have to even be on video. You can just record your screen, and you can keep it very simple. And in my experience, when the camera's on in front of you, if you're not used to it, it's very difficult to have a good train of thought, to have notes, because you don't want to be looking down at your notes. You want to just look at the camera, and it's very difficult. So it's another barrier that you need to overcome, and it's really unnecessary. So what I suggest is to create a PowerPoint presentation, whether that's on a PC on PowerPoint or on a Mac on Keynote, and just record your screen. So you have your slides up. You have a paper or a notepad with a bunch of notes, and you can even just look down and read some of your notes as you're presenting the content, because you're behind the camera at this point. So in terms of tools, I suggest Keynote or PowerPoint for the slideshow. Again, keep it very simple. They don't have to be fancy or professionally designed slides. Don't put too much information on them. Keep it very simple and elaborate on the slides as you speak. And then I record my screen. If I'm on a Mac, I just use QuickTime. It's already for free on the Mac. Just record the screen. I record the entire screen. I make the PowerPoint full screen, and I just speak. I use the microphone I'm using now. It's the ATR 2100. I see you have one as well. And super great microphone for under $100. Keeps the audio quality very good. If you're on a PC, I should add, if you want to record your screen, you can use something like Camtasia. So any screen recording software is very, very simple to use. They usually even come with editing features. So when you're recording your course, if you make mistakes, it's okay. You're never going to record from start to finish with, no mistakes. So if you make a mistake, just pause. Wait 5 seconds and then start your sentence over so that you'll see the break and you'll be able to remove that mistake. So simple, PowerPoint presentation, record your screen, use a microphone if you have a budget for it. If not, don't let that be an obstacle. Don't wait till you can afford a mic or buy one. Use your headphones or the built-in audio. Just go into a quiet room so there's no much background noise. And then what I really recommend people do once they created the course and edited it with the tools and the softwares that I just recommended, that they upload it to Thinkific, because, and this is what I teach in my course, at the end of the day, a lot of people don't have a website yet. And if they don't have a website yet, they might want to, wait till they buy a website domain, wait till they put up a website before they create their course. Now, I look at it differently. I say create your course now and worry about building a business later, because once you have your course, you're going to have extra motivation, momentum, confidence, and drive to go out and make all the other things happen. And they're no longer obstacles stopping you from getting started. Now you have the course. The rest is just building the business around it. So I suggest Thinkific, so you don't have to worry about building a business. You can have everything done extremely well, extremely quickly, very simple, easy to follow, very, limited options actually, which I love, because the more options I find, the more paralysis you face, the more you doubt yourself. So, you pick a clean color, you pick a clean template, you put everything up, and then your course is live. So you can literally go from creating your course to editing your videos to putting it up online with a sales page and with a members only area that you can have a username and login and just, have a course live ready for the world to buy. And then you can build the business around it so that you can start making continuous and consistent sales later. And that's how I structure the course. I structure it the same way. We go through creating the course from Friday to Friday night, Saturday and Sunday, and then module 4 is beyond the weekend, where we talk about building the business later, after you created the course. So those are the tools, that's the system, and I really recommend that people follow it that way, because changing the way you look at doing business online, creating the course up front, and then worrying about the business later really helps you get started quicker, and then helps you build momentum and learn around the way.
Awesome. And so once the course is, it's up and running, the content's online, we've got the sales page, we're ready to start promoting the thing, we're ready to enroll students. Now let's say, some people might have the advantage of an audience already. Like, let's say, maybe just because they chose their topic and they created a course in a weekend, let's say, maybe they spent the previous 6 or 12 months blogging or podcasting or being really active on social media. So, maybe they have a following of people who are interested in that course, and they can just promote the course to their existing audience. But what about in the case where somebody didn't have that time before they created the course to build up the audience? What if they ended up choosing a topic that they don't have, an email list of people who are into that topic? They don't have an audience of people who are interested in that subject. It just happens to be the subject that they're capable of teaching, but they missed that building the audience part of it ahead of time. So what could they do? Like, once the course is created, how can they spread the word if that's the scenario that they're in?
Yeah. So again, that's not a bad scenario to be in, because you have the course and you can worry about building the audience later around the course, because one of the benefits is now you're super specific about what you're going to be teaching. You're super specific about what the topic of your website is going to be. When I started, I didn't have a clue. And one of the problems were that I could start something so vague that I would not be targeting anyone. So now you have your course, you're very specific as to what you can teach. If you want to start a blog, now you know what to blog about. You can blog about the topic of your course, right? Start a podcast, very similar. Now, if you don't have an audience and you're getting started, don't worry, because you can find ways to collaborate with other people and set up joint ventures in order to grow your business and leverage other people's audiences in order to build your own. Now, one way that I've done it, as we've already talked about, is by hosting webinars. Hosting webinars allows you to not only sell to your own list if you already have one, but if you don't have one, people get stuck here and they say, how am I going to host a webinar? No one's going to be there. Well, you can reach out to other people and do webinars for their audience. You can do it in multiple different ways, whether that's a joint venture and you offer them an affiliate deal. You could say, hey, I'm going to do, a joint venture for your email list, and then I'm going to sell my course at the end, and we can share, do a profit share and come up with an agreement there. There, you're leveraging their audience. You're making sales by finding people to join your webinar and it's someone else's audience. And at the same time, you're building your email list throughout the way, right? Or you can even do, webinars where you don't sell anything. If you're doing it purely to grow your list and then you say, I'm going to sell to them later through an email sequence or through a webinar later on, you can do that as well. So don't stop yourself by saying, I'm unsure if I should reach out to somebody because I don't want to tell them I want to sell to their list. You can reach out to them and say, hey, Tyler, I want to do a webinar for your audience. No sales pitch. It's purely content. I'm just going to be giving value, and you're building your email list by doing that. So it's not like you're missing out on an opportunity. You can always email them later and upsell them that way throughout the process. So, if you don't have an audience yet, don't worry. Think about collaborating, whatever that means to you, whether that's a webinar, whether that's collaborating and doing a blog post or getting on someone else's podcast, and just finding ways to get in front of someone else's audience. Because if you don't have one, you can use someone else's.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't think that somebody should, let not having an audience stop them. So if you've got a course and no audience, the shortcut to promoting your course is just go find other people who have spent time building an audience of of your, your target market, your target audience, people who are most likely interested in your course. Maybe they don't have a course to offer their audience, so it's actually a win for them because they get to share your course with their audience. It's a win-win for everyone involved. Maybe they have a similar course, so it complements each other. Maybe they even have other types of products, and yet your course complements what it is they offer. So just go out and find those people who have access to your audience and create those joint venture partnerships there.
Yeah, I mean, you can also even do a bundle. Like, for example, you have, like you mentioned, complementary products. Then you can come together and do a very interesting, limited time deal where you offer both courses together at a discount. And, this offer can't be found anywhere else for any other time. So it's very interesting for the viewers. At the same time, don't forget that if you do host webinars and you know how to host a webinar, not everyone does. So you can also have that leverage. And when you email someone and you say, hey, I'd love to host a webinar for your list, or we can do a webinar together, I'll set it up. I'll do the groundwork. I'll front load and do all the work up front so that I can have this opportunity to be in front of your audience. And a lot of people see a lot of value in that. Say, okay, great. I've been wanting to do webinars for a while. Number one, I don't have time. Or number two, I don't know how to do it. If you're going to take care of it and we can do one together, that would be, win-win. So you can look at it from that perspective as well. Just always look at it from an abundance mentality.
Yeah, for sure. And we've just touched very briefly on some pretty big topics, like joint ventures is a big topic, email marketing is a big topic. You've got a course on webinars. So of course, if anyone wants to learn more about webinars, check out Michael's course. For those other topics, we've got resources on the blog at Thinkific. There's plenty of articles on joint ventures, email marketing. Who knows? Maybe those will be some of your next courses. Maybe your next course will be one on how to do joint ventures or how to build your email list. So keep an eye on Michael as he keeps making more courses. So listen, I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me and for sharing your insights, and we'll work towards wrapping things up here. I've just got one more question for you. For somebody who's watching this and, they haven't created their first course yet, they're still a little bit on the fence. They have an area of expertise, but they just don't have the confidence, or they haven't taken the first step to actually create their first course. If you could just help inspire them and give them that confidence to take the first step by telling us what kind of an impact creating online courses and sharing your knowledge has had on your life and on your business, and what are some of the things that you can do now because you're teaching online that you couldn't do before you started doing this?
Yeah, definitely. And I want you guys, first of all, if you're listening, to know that I was in the exact same position you guys are in right now just 2 years ago. Like, I had all the limiting beliefs. I didn't think it was possible. I didn't believe in myself. I had all these doubts and I didn't have the confidence. And then I got started, and that was built over time. And that's why I say the secret to getting ahead is getting started, because you build that confidence, you build that momentum, and you build a business over time. It's really a long-term process. It doesn't happen overnight. But the best way to get started is to get started fast so that you can start on that process faster, right? And, in terms of online courses, for me, they really changed everything for me, because I struggled after I quit my job. And once I started building my first course and I started selling it on a bigger scale, I started to travel. And for me, that was my biggest why. That was my biggest dream. When I was working my 9 to 5, I would sit there and think of beaches of Thailand, and I would think of those long tail boats and that crystal clear water. So once I started having that freedom of, being able to work online, being able to have a product that I created once, and then I just need to focus on marketing and selling that I can do with my laptop from anywhere in the world, as long as I had an internet connection. I said, I packed my bag and said, I'm going to go discover the world. I'm going to go travel. And, I've been all over the world. I spend my winters now in Thailand. I'm going back there this year because I'm from Montreal and it's really cold here in the winter. So I try to spend my winters in Thailand where it's beautiful. I work, from a Wi-Fi connection there with my laptop. And again, you create the course once, you can work on building the automations and the systems and the funnels and all the fun stuff later. And it also allows you to make passive income, right? Because your course is done, it's on your website, it's live, people can buy it whenever they find you, they read your content, they listen to your podcast, for example, and they like you and want to learn from you, then they can buy the course. It's sitting right there. And one of the best feelings still to this day is waking up to the email where you see someone bought your course overnight. And it's a great, great feeling. So yeah, they really changed a lot for me. I love online courses. I'm very proud to say that I am a teacher, because I do, love teaching in front of people, just not in a classroom the traditional way. And I really think the world's evolving in that direction. Like, education, especially online education, is taking off. It's definitely the way of the future. And I think it's an opportunity for a lot of us to look at ourselves as having an inner expertise that we can help other people. And it's very gratifying to get emails from people saying thank you, and to see the impact you're making in other people's lives. And this is not something something I felt at any other time in my life. So I love online courses. I love creating them. The process could be tough, but it's super rewarding once you're done. And, if you're interested in creating an online course, what I suggest is to give yourself a deadline. If you think about it, when was the last time you did something without a deadline? I can't think of the last time I did something without a deadline, right? In college, I would have a paper and I'd wait till the weekend before I did it, because I needed the fear of the deadline to kick me into gear. Same thing if you're listening and you have a full-time job. Like, would you be at work on time if you didn't know you had to be there at, let's say, 8 a.m. or 9 a.m.? You might be late. You might show up at 10. You might not show up at all, right? You need accountability from a schedule. You need accountability in forms of a deadline. So if you're going to create an online course, give yourself a deadline. I love doing it in a weekend. It's a process that, a lot of my students have seen great results with. They go from no idea to having a course published from Friday night to Saturday evening. And then they wake up Monday morning saying, wow, I've been stuck for months or even years. I had a student who was stuck for 5 years who told me he's taken other courses, $1,000 courses, and he just couldn't get past the idea phase. And then with the structure of the course, with the course schedule, he said it's super easy to follow because all I got to do is watch the video, take action, come back, watch another video, take another action, and build that momentum. And waking up Monday morning with a completed course is amazing. So what I suggest is, whether you take the course or not, just give yourself a deadline. Do your own mini challenge if you want. You can even get started for free on my website. I have a free mini course where I walk you through it, how to create an online course in a weekend. And you can grab that, again, 100% free. Is at michaelcarbone.ca/weekend. So michaelcarbone.ca/weekend. Free mini course to get started on helping you create an online course in just a weekend.
Perfect. Well, Michael, thank you again for your time today. Really appreciate it. You've shared a ton of great advice that I think is going to be very helpful for our audience and to help those who are still on the fence and haven't gone from idea to online course yet. Help them get through that process as quickly and efficiently as possible. Best place they can find you, as you mentioned, is at your website, michaelcarbone.ca. You've got a lot of great resources there, courses, your podcast, and the free training that you just offered us. So we'll make sure that we direct people to those resources as well. So thank you so much, Michael, and I wish you all the best.
Thanks so much, Tyler. Appreciate it. Thanks. It was fun to be here, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Cheers.